This video will focus on multiplying fractions. When adding and subtracting fractions, you must have a common denominator. But when it comes to the multiplication of fractions, a common denominator is not necessary. All that you need to do is multiply your numerators and your denominators. You're going to multiply across. So one numerator times the other numerator, one denominator times the other denominator. So in this first example, we have 2/5 times 1/3. I'm going to begin with my numerators. 2 times 1 is 2. Then my denominators, 5 times 3 is 15. So 2/5 times 1/3 equals 2/15. It is rather simple. Sometimes, depending on the preference of your teacher, you may have to reduce your fraction once you've done the multiplication. So in this second example, we have 2/6 times 3/8. I'm going to multiply across again, starting with my numerators. 2 times 3 is 6. And then with my denominators, 6 times 8 is 48. And if you're required to reduce your fraction, you will need to find the greatest common factor that divides evenly into both your numerator and your denominator. In this case, the greatest common factor would be 6. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. And 48 divided by 6 is 8. So 2/6 times 3/8 equals 1/8 in its reduced form. If you have very large numbers when you're multiplying, you may want to consider reducing your fraction before you multiply. This will actually make the multiplication a little easier. So I will use the same two fractions that we used just now. So 2/6 times 3/8. We're going to multiply them again, but this time around, we're going to reduce them before we actually do the multiplication. When you're reducing your fractions, you can reduce the numerator and denominator of one fraction, or you can do cross reduction. So here I'm going to do cross reduction. I know that 2 divides into 2 once, and 2 divides into 8 4 times. 3 divides into 3 once, and 3 divides into 6 2 times. So now I'm going to multiply these reduced numerators and denominators. So for the numerators, I will multiply 1 times 1, which is 1. And then I will multiply 2 times 4, which is 8. So notice I got the same answer, even though I did my reducing before I did my multiplication. So when multiplying your fractions, it is not going to be necessary for you to have a common denominator. You will begin by multiplying across with your numerators, then multiplying across with your denominators. Sometimes you may have to reduce, so your final answer, you want to make sure it's in its simplest form by finding your greatest common factor. And you can also reduce within the problem before you actually complete your multiplication. And that is how you multiply fractions.